So, hello and welcome to the Digital Forum meeting. We are excited to have all of you here with us today. The first hour of our meeting will be dedicated to question and answer session. It's a great opportunity for all of us to share our knowledge, ask questions, and learn from each other. Please feel free to ask any questions you may have about photography, whether you are a beginner or an experienced photographer. After the Q&A session, we will have a guest speaker joining us for the second hour of our meeting. Today it will be Mike Mezeul on Volcano Photography. Our guest is a talented photographer with a wealth of knowledge and experience to share with us. We are looking forward to learning from them and hearing about their journey as a photographer. Thank you all for joining us today. Let's get started and have a great time learning and sharing with each other. Trying a new opening today, so let's see. So, does anybody have any questions to get us started here? Otherwise, it's going to be a quick meeting.
Boy, it's pretty quiet. Well, I have something to say.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Clint.
All right, so I got a new camera here, my new A7R5, and I'm gonna put some gasoline on this fire right away. So anyways, I've been shooting like JPEG a lot, and I tried RAW for the first time. Oh my God, was it awful in that I've never seen horrible pictures ever in my entire life. So anyways, I got a little show and tell I can show you, but we're going to first start off with, let me share my screen real quick. I'm going to show you some good pictures first. All right, share screen. And I think we're going to do screen one. Okay, here we go.
You've never shot with RAW before, Clint?
I've shot RAW and net before, but not too much. But you can see this instrument, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So these pictures, are a little Photoshop with JPEG pictures. All right. Let me go back one. Here's another JPEG picture. When you zoom in, you can see good detail, in the mic. So this is just JPEG pictures. Some, editing. This one's cropped down, and you can see the nice sharp detail in the eyelashes. Another picture of JPEG. Another good picture of JPEG. Now, this is unedited JPEG picture because I wanted to show, apples and apples and apples and oranges. So this is just out of the camera with a JPEG picture. So you can zoom in and you can see it's a pretty decent picture. This is at 214%. I think I have one more. Yeah, here's another JPEG picture. Nice and sharp quality. All right, well, let's go to RAW files. Here's a RAW file. So 100%. I don't know if you see the quality, but look at the god-awful, horrible RAW quality I'm getting. This is blurry. This is garbage. I don't know what the heck is going on with shooting RAW. Shooting RAW should not be this blurry. And I know you're always supposed to do editing, Photoshop editing or whatever, with your pictures. But a picture like this would be massive Photoshop editing. A RAW file shouldn't have to be that massive to edit. That's just my opinion. I don't know what everyone else's opinion
that
is.
was a really noisy shot. Looks like very high ISO.
Well, 6400 ISO. Here's another
Was
one.
that the same for your JPEGs?
The JPEGs, I think they were off a little bit. I can check, but I mean, she's looking right at me.
Yeah, but what ISO were your JPEGs at, Clint?
Let's see here, because I do know some of them. Let's try this. Let's go. I know some of them were lower for sure.
Yeah, you're comparing apples and oranges. I recommend to people that start with RAW that
okay.
they set their camera.
This one's at 2500 ISO. Of course, this one's 500, so that's a lot less compared to 64. This is 64, 604, 1250. And then of course, then this one's only 150. But man, I don't know.
But even at
You
that,
shoot RAW plus JPEG?
I should have
you got
shot both. I should have shot both in RAW and JPEG.
Yeah,
But-
because then we could compare a lot better if you.
Correct,
Yeah.
because it'd be the same
6400
picture.
is a pretty high ISO.
well, not really though, Drumma, not with
Not
that
at 64, not with a mirrorless camera.
Not with those cameras. I mean,
Well,
Some of them-
shoot with both RAW and JPEG, and then you can put them
Yeah.
side by side and compare.
Yeah, correct. And I have to agree with you on that. You know, that then I get true, comparison. But 6400 ISO with the mirrorless cameras, I mean, you can bump it up 10, 20,000 and get, halfway decent. But
Not my
This-
camera, not the Canon R5. It's a mirrorless, and I still get I actually, my old DSLR is a Canon 6D, the older camera, and it has better nighttime photography, low light photography at higher ISOs than my latest camera.
it's funny, you're right. There are some cameras that are better with higher resolution, but man, like I said, second time shooting with the RAW, it's like, this is horrible.
What was your shutter speed for that image that you showed with the noise?
All of them were shot at like 250.
Hmm.
So it was a fast shutter speed, so it wasn't like slow in that, let's say, 20th of a second. So I was
Right.
kind of surprised by that. And then an aperture of 2.8.
Also, keep in mind that your JPEGs have been modified by the camera, and it probably
Correct.
did quite a bit of noise reduction on those too.
Correct. To a certain degree in that, But I tried to do Photoshop editing on those RAW files. I just can't save them. I mean, they're just over 400 pictures. They're all junk. It's like I can't produce that type of quality.
Well, when I shoot at night, I try to keep my ISO down below 3200 or below. If I go up to 6400 and I'm shooting stars, I have more stars than just stars.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I know what you mean. Yeah. No, thank you for your advice on that. But yeah, I tried all sorts of, so, but yeah, I think I'll have to try both a combination of the JPEG and RAW and then see, if I do get the same results. But it's just my opinion, just even a RAW picture, that picture should be more sharper, more
I
clear.
agree
Even
with
though
that.
that there's noise in the picture, it still should be sharper.
yeah, no, I
Well,
definitely agree with that.
yeah.
Those
The
are
raw file, though, doesn't have any sharpening applied to it, and unless you run it through some sort of processor, whether it's Sony's own processing program,
Okay.
or Lightroom, or
Because
Photoshop even.
when I did
Oh.
the preview, take a picture, look at the picture, it's like, this is horrible. And that was even because on the back of our screens, it actually converts it to a JPEG so we can see it. And
Yeah.
it was still that blurry. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah, you may check your settings on the camera, because
Yeah.
we know the Sony camera does a better job than that, even in low light. So there's something going on that
Mhm.
shouldn't have been,
Yeah,
you
well,
should have
that's why I
gotten-
thought maybe you guys might know a little trick, and I've been asking, and that I know I emailed the Sony rep. The Sony rep is actually going to get back to me next week because he's been so busy and that, and he wants to go on his computer instead of on the cell phone, because the cell phone you can only see X amount of quality.
Right.
Can I make
Now,
a
did you-
comment?
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead, Jim.
Couple of things I noticed. One is when you were zooming in on the woman who you didn't like the stuff as much, you're zooming in considerably more. So the ones where the people were sitting there, they're much closer to you and you didn't have to zoom in as much.
Yeah.
So if you're zooming in twice as far, you would expect half the quality, number one. But
Yeah.
if you're, again, you have flash when you're doing the people sitting there. So you froze action where the people on stage, you did not have flash and you didn't freeze action. So there's a lot of apples and oranges that you were comparing there. And you really, I think what people were saying, you really need to shoot the JPEG and the RAW and compare the two after you've manipulated the RAW. But just keep in mind, RAWs almost always need a little added shadow and bringing down highlights. It's typical of anything that comes out of a camera in RAW.
Yes. No, it's good, but yeah, but like I said, with RAW, man, it seems like when you got to do RAW, it looks like you have to do some massive editing. It's like I shouldn't have to do too much massive editing. And
Well,
you should-
RAWs have to be edited because when you see the JPEG, your camera actually does sharpening, does contrast, does a whole bunch of things in the background that you don't see.
Yeah.
And that's what produces those JPEGs. So the things that you're going to do by hand now are what the camera did automatically.
yeah,
So you do have to run it through a raw processor just to get it to be a better image than if you're just viewing it off of Windows
okay,
photo viewer, which is just basically it's looking at the JPEG that you had made. It can also depend on the size JPEG that you created in the raw file. And
Can I
that
make
could
one
be
other comment? And that
part
is
of it.
everybody's RAW converter is usually made by the company that made the converter. So in other words, if you were on One or Adobe, they write their own conversion from RAW to the look you see on your computer. So you don't necessarily know, they're not all the same is what I guess I'm saying. So one might be a little sharper, one may not. It depends on what the developers of that software decided to do for the processing when you saw the RAW. There's no standard conversion, even though I think most people think there is. There really is not, except for the company's standard conversion. And companies generally do not sell that data or give it to the companies that are running these software programs that we all buy.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. Is on my RAW file, because you could see how horrible it was. I was getting that same quality picture on the back of my screen. How do I know it's a good picture or not when it looks blurry?
If you're seeing that on the back of your screen, then the chances are there's something else going on because
Okay.
your camera
Yeah.
is showing you what actually is happening, and you're always seeing a JPEG version on the back
Correct.
of your screen.
'Cause
So
I
if
seen,
that
like I said,
happened
I
there,
seen the,
then something else was going on.
okay, because like I said, I seen the same quality. It's like that's not quality, it's like something is wrong in that. So that, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't have good luck with RAW. I can try it again, but I gotta see, maybe there's something wrong with the settings in the camera, or hopefully it's not a defect camera, but
I would recommend you always shoot both JPEG and RAW.
Right.
I think most people have the same reaction that you're having when they first start shooting RAW. With me, it was color. I was always frustrated because I couldn't get the colors that I wanted that I saw in the JPEG files, but I still took the advice and shot and saved my images in both JPEG and RAW. Today, I go back through my old folders and delete the JPEGs.
okay. Well, you know what? I got a
did you
photo shoot
take,
tonight. I can try it.
Did you take raw images of like an outdoor settings? Because I'm getting the impression all of these raw pictures that you're talking about were like at this indoor event.
In low light, correct.
Yeah. Have you tried raw in an outdoor setting, outdoor landscapes?
I
But we
tried
have normal light, outdoor light.
I just tried one, and I was getting fuzzy around the trees. And that,
There's something
not
else
as
going
sharp.
on there. Yeah,
Yeah.
then there's something wrong.
Clint,
Yes.
one of the things that I've learned years ago, whenever you get a new camera, update the firmware right away.
Okay, and that I didn't do, but still, even before that, I should still get a sharp quality picture, but I can look into that. But thank you everyone for your advice.
But maybe
Yeah,
comparing
We've
apples
had
to
this discussion. We've had this discussion, Clint. Raw is basically like you bought a piece of IKEA furniture. All the
Yeah.
pieces are there. JPEG has already put them together for you.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. But like I said, even when looking at the back of my screen and it's blurry, how do I know it's a sharp picture? I can't shoot
If-
10,000 pictures, and if they're all blurry, it doesn't make sense. On the back of my screen, I should know if that picture is sharp. And
Yeah,
on the
And
back of
um,
my screen, it's not sharp.
And the
On my
back of your
camera.
screen, and the back, like Jim said, the back of your screen is going to show you a JPEG.
Correct. And if my JPEG is blurry, then the picture is blurry. And
Right.
What doesn't make sense is your camera only shoots RAW and converts it into JPEG.
Correct.
So I don't understand why the raw data would be less sharp when you finally have worked with it than the JPEG, because that is the data that the camera had to work with to make the JPEG.
From the
That
very
doesn't make
beginning.
any
Yep,
sense.
correct. It doesn't make sense. So I'm scratching my head on that. Why is the RAW giving me worse results than the JPEG? It doesn't make sense.
Well,
So,
but
but
you're saying blurry though, what you were showing us was high noise, which might make it look a little blurry, but it wasn't, it was sharp.
oh no, it's way off. It's way
Oh.
off. It's like going from a 1920 or 1950 TV to an 8K TV. That's how
So it was
much
out of
a-
focus.
that's how bad that sharpness, the focus. It seemed like it wasn't focused right.
We're kind
Yeah.
of going in circles until you take the same picture and have it, both files in RAW and JPEG. You can have an
Yep.
opinion, but until you put the two side by side, you're
Yep.
not going to learn anything.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give it a try, but like I said, still, if you take a picture and it's blurry in the back of the screen, something is not right.
Yeah, and the first thing you need to do, Clint, is shoot outside in normal light.
Okay.
Probably the worst thing to do is shoot at a concert the first time you get a camera.
Yep. that's what they
Because you're working in so much strange lighting situations
did. Yep.
that you don't know if it's the camera, if it's you, or a combination of both. So you go outside, shoot some pictures, shoot it of trees where you got very fine detail so you can zoom in and see, and then again, shoot JPEG and RAW. It shouldn't make a difference from JPEG to RAW. The other thing would be to check to see what type of JPEG it is creating with your RAW file. Some of the cameras, when have a setting, and I don't know about Sony's, I know Nikon's do, where you can decide on what quality RAW file is being made. And I turn the quality of that RAW file, JPEG file up that gets embedded in the RAW file so
Correct.
that I can see exactly what the RAW file is getting. Those would be the first steps. I would never have started like you did and shooting in low light.
Yeah, right into the
First
fire, yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
That's I mean, I just got a new Nikon Z6 II, and I spent the first day just walking around outside on bright sunny days, checking all the settings and making sure it's sharp, that it's working correctly. And then I started playing with all the different things because I was having that camera converted to infrared. And I wanted to make sure it worked right before I sent it into the company to have the infrared stuff converted. But I spend 2-3 days testing a camera out before I'd even think of doing what you did with shooting indoors.
Yeah, no.
Another thing, Clint, is if you are indeed having trouble with the lens focusing correctly, you can calibrate the lens. I know in my camera, my Canon, I can go in and calibrate the lens and move the focus point forward or back a little bit.
Correct. Well, this is a new mirrorless lens too in that, so there should be not any calibration in that.
Yeah, and if your those JPEGs came out sharp, so
yeah, so
that would
I don't
tend
know
to
what's
mean-
going on. So, but I'll try tonight. I'm glad that the snowstorm's gone, because last time there was a snowstorm, they had to cancel. So tonight I'll shoot both JPEG and RAW and go from there on that.
Yeah, and shoot some raw this afternoon outside on a bright sunny day, and shoot the tree branches. If they're not coming in sharp with a high shutter speed, that's going to tell you right off the bat that there's something wrong with the camera.
Yeah, and also I'm
And-
gonna keep that same f-stop. I'm not gonna go f8 in that. I'm gonna shoot the same thing,
Yeah.
2.8.
Yeah,
I
shoot-
gotta compare everything
Shoot
exactly
wide open
equal.
and shoot a high shutter speed and see what's happening there. Double check to make sure your image stabilization was on too.
Yes, it was.
Maybe it got turned off in between the JPEGs to the RAW.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
can
because I
happen
know,
too.
but correct in that it is set up. I know once I accidentally bumped the switch off for the manual focus. Should I set my ISO the same to 6400 ISO and then let the shutter, calculate the speed then?
I would try lower speeds first outside just to make the first thing you want to eliminate is it in focus or not. You need to know if it's focusing correctly and if it's focusing sharp. If
Well,
it's not doing that at a low ISO, that's your first warning.
Oh,
As you
okay.
go up in ISOs, you're going to get more noise, and 6400. I don't. How many megapixels is that, Sony? I don't even know.
61.
Well, that can be part of it too. As you get up in noise at 6400 with that high a megapixel camera, any little bit of movement's going to give you blur.
Yeah. But even
and-
shooting at 250.
Yeah, even at 250, I've shot racetrack stuff with my high megapixel camera, and I could get blur even at a high shutter speed.
What is
because
amazing-
it's gathering so much more information than the other cameras are.
What is
but,
amazing is I have a picture of the audience in that, and I have a picture that I shot that at 20th of a second, and it's pretty damn sharp. And it's like, wow, this built-in image stabilizer. I have no problem going down to 20 and 25,
Yeah.
but then too, when you start getting that slow, then the people start becoming blurry. But I was still amazed on the wall. There was a painting or a frame around the wall, and that was 40 feet away, and that was sharp. I mean, there was no blurry movement in that. So I was surprised how sharp that was, crisp.
Sure.
So
Sure.
but-
Well, watch your ISOs. That's going to be a big part, because as you get up there, it's going to start to fall apart. It didn't look, those didn't look sharp, but yeah, your best bet would be to shoot RAW and JPEG and compare. But heck, it's using the same sensor now. The JPEG is doing is processing the RAW right in the camera.
And I
So,
did like what Jim mentioned too, in that, well, if the JPEG is getting a sharp picture from the RAW, well, why is the RAW not sharp too?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to give that a try tonight in that.
But it also needs processing. You can't just
Correct.
I don't know how Windows is processing that raw file, other than looking at the JPEG that's built into the file, and that, if you're using a low quality JPEG in the raw file setup, that could give you a lower quality look. So see if you can turn it up. I know I have 3 settings for the quality raw JPEG that it creates.
Yeah, I got mine on extra. Find the most detail
Yeah.
that you can get.
But double check the raw stuff. There are sometimes extra settings in the raw section when you pick the raw file
Okay.
inside the camera menu.
Because I got
Yeah.
the raw, the on lossless, where it's no compression in that. I make sure
Yeah.
that's, I want to make sure I get the most detail, most information I can.
Yeah.
Can I segue into something Drema mentioned? Lens calibration. How does one
Sure.
do that? I have a Canon camera.
Is it mirrorless though?
Pardon?
Is it mirrorless or is it mirrored camera?
No, it's not a mirrorless. It's a Rebel, the latest Rebel.
Are you asking how to do it?
Yes.
I ordered a little fold-up plate that has like a bullseye on it, and then on the side it has a ruler that you can turn 90 or 45
45.
degrees. You set that up on a tripod and then you take pictures of it, and that ruler will tell you exactly where the focus is. And if you aren't exactly at 0 where you want to be, right in the middle, or the bullseye is slightly out, then you can go into the camera and change the settings for the focus in the menus and adjust it slightly, and then keep shooting it until you get it focused exactly like it should be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Tony, it's a setting. It'd be like micro adjustments or something. I can't remember exactly what Canon calls it, but it's buried down in the settings. You'll have to go in there and find it. They never had that in the cameras. When the 30D came out from Canon, it had a horrible back focusing issue, and Canon would never admit to it. When the 50D came out, all of a sudden they had a way to fix the problem that they would never admit that they had.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
If I remember right,
But-
too, you can focus on.
Yeah, there's Gary showing up the focus chart, one type of focus chart that's out there. And you set it up at an angle so that you can tell what's in focus, what isn't in focus. And then you got points and you just keep trying to adjust it closer and closer. It's not a simple project. It's time consuming. It's not hard, but it's time consuming.
And you have
So-
you have to find the sweet spot in each lens too. So it's going to be a different aperture for where
Yeah.
you are. But
Mirrorless
it's
has
harder.
less problems with it.
Yeah,
than-
I found it to be easier with the telephoto lenses, because if you have a wide angle, and you're setting the target up, it's very small in the picture when you have a wide angle lens.
Yeah.
So you want, that's another thing, the distance away from the target you are, and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's time consuming.
Yeah, if you Google it, they'll show you, and I bet if you Google it for your type camera, they'll show you exactly how to do it on YouTube. There's so many of those, used to be so many of those up on YouTube.
Yeah, I picked up this package off Amazon for like, I think it was like $7, $8. So it wasn't real expensive. Another device that does the same thing, it's called Lens Align. I think
Yeah.
they're still around.
Yeah, and that's what I use, but that's $150.
Yes, that's
setup.
really expensive.
But and I don't even use it much anymore. It's stored away in a special case that if I think I have a lens problem, all my mirrorless have never needed the adjustment. Only my DSLRs needed it.
Can I just say, for
So-
peace of mind for those who have bought mirrorless, there technically is no adjustment. And although you may see one in there, they normally don't even activate for standard lenses. And the reason is really simple. In an older style with a mirror, there was a separate focusing system below the mirror. And on the mirrorless, it actually focuses on the sensor. You can't get any better than on the sensor, because that is the exact place it's taking the photo. So that's why you really don't normally ever touch any kind of micro focusing for a mirrorless system.
Yeah, the only time I really end up having to touch it is on lenses that weren't designed for the mirrorless camera. For some reason, the focusing part is sort of off sometimes in the lens itself, and that needs adjustment.
Yeah, when you use an adapter, I had that with my 100 or 400. It was off.
Yeah, so sometimes that can happen. But good. Well, that was a
Just
good.
want to keep people from panicking in case they're thinking, oh, everybody's got to adjust everything. And
Yeah,
general,
no,
nowadays it's changed nowadays than it was 20 years ago or 10 years
Yeah.
ago.
Or then a lot of the software have filters built into it to kind of fix lens abrasion too. On one's got that where they've got, you can choose the lens and it'll make micro adjustments within the software.
Yep. No, everything all the way around is with mirrorless makes things easier and better. So No. Excuse me. Kathy has a question about sending photos to be printed by Nations Photo Lab or other
Or
places.
any other place too.
Yeah.
What I do,
Basically, you need to export it out as a JPEG in the sRGB color format. And then you should be able to email that.
yeah, and then sometimes there's very other types of JPEG files, and I'm not sure what they are.
You want to use the standard JPEG. Most of the labs like standard JPEGs. I don't think they like some of these newer formats that keep coming out.
So just
the sta-
JPG.
Yeah, yeah, and
Because
with an
I would,
sRGB color
Yeah.
format.
like, I thought I was exporting it as a JPEG, and it was some other initials, JP, and I don't remember what the last letter was.
Oh,
But
there's
then
like
I looked at the metadata.
Yeah, but
What?
there is JPEG too, and which is the same thing as a JPEG. It just
Yeah, but then I looked at the metadata and it was only 72 by 72, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's not what I want. So then
yeah, you want to make sure you export it
300,
at the
yeah.
highest or the size of the print that you want made or higher,
Yeah,
so that
that sounded
they
more
have
like a
plenty of
PNG
pixels.
file than a JPEG. Is what it sounds like at 72.
but so you're
Yeah.
saying just go to photo export.
Yeah. What program are you going from, Kathy? Are you going from Luminar or from
Photoshop.
Photoshop?
Well, first I make it into one layer, and then I make it that sRGB profile,
Okay.
and then I export it. And I know when I first started doing this, sometimes I picked the wrong type. But
Yeah,
now I'm more observant of what I'm doing.
Photoshop has a new export as module that will
Yeah, I
let
think
you
that's what I was
export
using.
a JPEG out of that, and you just have to watch because you can resize the JPEG in there to whatever size you want. So you need to watch to make sure you're exporting it at full size and not at a reduced size. And sometimes that export thing is sticky. So if you exported it at a small size for something else and come back later,
Yeah.
it might be stuck at that. So make sure it exports it, because yeah, you have the choice of PNG or JPEG in that module. And
But what did you say? Somebody said something about JPEG is different than JPG.
No, they're the same format.
they're the same
Oh, they
format.
are? Okay.
Some
There's another
computers
thing, there's another setting that will reduce the quality. If you go scroll down when you export, there's a checkbox to limit the size.
And it's what?
And there's a checkbox and you can limit the size of the export.
Oh,
So make sure that's not checked.
yeah.
okay, thank you.
So, hey, we got 33 people watching. 33 of you, there must be some questions out there.
Put them in the Q&A.
Jeez, Q&A has nothing. How many people got to see the aurora Thursday night?
I did.
It was
Yeah, I was
overcast here.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm up in Door County now, at the tip, and we're 5 miles away from a dark sky park.
Wow.
State Park, which I think was the 50th park in the world to get that international dark sky designation. And it was a new moon, no moon, black moon.
Yeah.
And we were lucky because there weren't any clouds. Usually when we get, high KPs to, indicate solar activity, you go out there and it's a cloudy night. So it doesn't matter how great the northern lights are because you're not going to see them, or if there's other problems, but everything came together just right. I even saw reds.
Wow.
addition to the greens and yellows, which I haven't seen in like 7 or 8 years. Yeah,
Joe,
it
where is
was-
this Sky Park in Door County? I'm going up to Door County in a couple months and
yeah, it's called Newport State Park. It's outside of Ellison Bay, which is near the tip of the Door Peninsula at the thumb tip. And it's about 4 or 5 miles east.
And can you arrange for some solar activity when I go up there?
That would be nice. I would do it myself if I could, but unfortunately I can't.
Well, we don't want to shut down the satellites, but
Yeah, it was a,
You can
Pretty
contact
strong
the state park up there in advance to see if they've got any events going on. Sometimes they'll bring out telescopes
oh,
and things, so that people could, look through and all. So you might want to contact them to see if anything's going on when you're going to be up there.
I
yeah,
checked,
Daniel Anderson has been posting some photos on Facebook. He's up in Ellison Bay of the last couple of nights with the aurora. I'm jealous. I was
Yeah,
looking
well-
out last night, but we were overcast before the snow came.
oh,
I
yeah.
checked spaceweather.com. Spaceweather.com has a really good indication on, and you can kind of see where the northern lights are too.
Well, I've been checking every other day up here when we're here, and it was always a KP of 1 or 2, which is really low, which is like no activity. And I just gave up looking, and I was watching the news about 10:25. One of the talking heads said, "Oh my gosh, we're getting emails, photographs of people are sending in to
Yep.
us of the northern lights." And I was just about to turn the TV off when that came on, and I was going to bed, and I yelled to my wife, "The northern lights are out." And she said, "I just put my jammies on." And I said, can we go out, please? And okay. And yeah, we were rewarded. Otherwise I would have missed it completely. But the KP was like the highest I've ever seen it up here, 7.4.
Yeah, it was in
Wow.
the 7s.
Yeah, I seen
And I
7.3.
guess they
Wow.
saw it all the way down to Racine. If you were in a dark area, my area's
actually
getting
looking-
pretty bright, so I didn't see it.
I was actually looking to see if I saw some through the clouds. I have been in Norway and I've gotten some northern lights when it's cloudy, when it's not overcast, but when it's cloudy, it can turn into some pretty good pictures depending on how the northern lights are with the clouds. It can make some nice.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
The northern lights will peek through. If the clouds break open a little bit, you'll get a little window, and sometimes that can be really spectacular.
But it was pretty
Yeah.
thick overcast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was that bad. Clint, how well could you see it here? I couldn't see it out of my windows, but
It was okay. If I would have start taking it about a half hour earlier, but I
Yeah.
had a couple, but it's just mostly green, and that I had one curtain, and that's about it. But it was very faint at the time, but I was, it was okay.
yeah.
Well,
No.
when you're taking northern lights photos, if you see a little bit of green, your camera is going to see a lot of bit of green, and it might see some red because you're going to be taking an exposure of 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and it's going to be gathering a lot more light. And sometimes you'll look at, oh, that's not much, and you take a picture and say you're blown away by what you're seeing on the screen because it accumulated all that light. So
Correct.
take your camera out and take a shot when you just see a little bit, or if it's telling you that it's supposed to be out there, sometimes you'll get a picture of it even if you're not seeing it.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I have a couple
Solar-
pictures like that too, where you can't see it with the naked eye, and then when you have a long exposure, and that is like they just pop, they come out.
I can
Do these
show
solar
you one.
storms usually last?
Sometimes they're real short.
Mhm.
This one went for a long time. We've had a lot of sunspot activity going on lately, so we were getting a lot of high indications that we were going to get it. And this was Thursday night was the highest I had seen in a long time,
Right.
because it was over 7, and I should have gone out. My problem was my equipment was spread around 2 buildings, and I figured by the time I got out there, I wasn't going to get anything, and I just gave up. But then I saw pictures the next morning, and I go, "Oh, I should have." So,
Hey.
hey, Jerry, you saw it from Hollow Rock?
Yeah, we were up at Hollow Rock. We went up to shoot the night sky on Monday, and we had it Thursday night, 8.33 K. It was
Yeah.
incredible. It was above us. It was over the rock. It was all over. You didn't know where to look. It was just everywhere. And if you were online, Bob Israel was down at the lighthouse and got some fabulous stuff too. It was unbelievable. I've seen many, 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 many auroras, but this was by far the best one I've ever seen.
I think it's been
visible to the eye. You could see the pinks, the greens, all the colors. It was incredible.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
the kind you look for and happens maybe once every 10 or 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We started photographing at about 8:30 and ended at 3 a.m.
Wow.
It kept going. It was pulsing all night. It was by far the best I'd ever seen. So
Well, I
It's
know
good.
it was big sunspot activity before then, and they were saying that it was coming. I didn't pay attention to my Aurora apps. I turned notifications off on them. So, but then I got one that finally popped through that said, "Boy, it's strong."
It's kind of a
So-
blessing sometimes when you have several hours of, northern lights. One time
Yeah.
when I was up in Canada, I got my camera out. I could only get 3 pictures. It came and it was gone. 3 pictures and that was it.
well, that's the thing. You never know. But there's a on SoftServe now, or not soft, is it SoftServe? One of the websites, they've got the 3-day window on it with an actual graph that gives you.
That's a NASA website has it.
I don't know if that's the one
one was
though that I'm on.
spaceweather.com.
It actually, you could follow the graph, and it said it was going to be over 6 starting at 10 p.m. until 3 a.m. And it was actually at 8 o'clock, it was already at over a 6. So it was phenomenal. Yep. And we just happened to be there. I mean, we've lucked out before. We've probably about 58% of the time that we're up there, we get at least some northern lights, not always, but and we figured
Yeah.
we were due. And we didn't realize until the day we were leaving, we saw the big alert or possibility. So we were absolutely thrilled, and we were pretty much ready for it.
Wow.
As you were saying,
That's-
it was actually pulsing.
Oh, yeah.
And it was pulsing like across the sky. I have a wide angle lens, 14 millimeter, and I couldn't capture, the breadth of it all. And I didn't, like you were saying, I didn't know where to point the camera. And then I found out when I was pointing away from north, more northeast, where you wouldn't expect it to be strong, it was actually stronger in that direction. And that's where I was getting the reds coming in.
I didn't have
I
any
think the
reds.
website might be spaceweather.com. Is that it? Space weather?
That's one of them that I use is spaceweather.com.
Yeah.
They've got an iPhone app that has pretty good predictions from what I've used. And then I use there's another Aurora app. kept
SoftServe
telling
News
me.
is the one too.
Which one?
SoftServeNews.com. Because I actually get alerts. I pay $5 a month, and I get alerts on it. I get hourly alerts if there's something going on. You can go in and actually set your parameters. And I had it, so I knew we were going to be up there, so I had it set for Grand Portage. And so I was getting email alerts, text alerts, and phone call alerts. Not so much phone call alerts, because where we stay,
Yeah, there is no phone call.
well, there really is. Well, not always, but 50% of the time I can get, I always get emails down there and texts, but not always phone calls, but I was
Yeah.
getting everything. So it was great. It was
Well,
phenomenal.
that part of that was mainly from the atmosphere, I think, being so electrified that it was bouncing signals all over the place.
Could be.
I know we got a couple people want to know where Hollow Rock is. It's in the very northern part of Minnesota on the Superior shoreline.
It's 10 miles on this side of the Canadian border
Right. Yeah.
on Highway 61.
And there's a nice set of cabins there that you can stay at, owned by a casino. And Ken's got to be going nuts. He went down to Florida this week. And of all the weeks that he goes down to Florida is the one time where he could have shot auroras right from his backyard. So,
I hope we
one
sent
of
them
the
some
pictures-
pictures.
I was shooting the aurora, Jeff, from the fish. I was limited. It was so icy up there, and there was like 5 inches of fresh snow. Everything was frozen, and I'd already fallen once in the snow because I didn't know what rocks were under me.
yeah.
So it was really limited with my ability to get around. So I got over to the fish because I knew no one was staying there. So I was shooting from there, and then also from right in front of the Eagle, which is where we normally stay and where we were staying. So yeah, it's just 10 miles this side of the Canadian border. It's just a great place to go for the Northern Lights if they're going to be out, and for night sky. It's great.
Nice
And they
Milky
also,
Way
you know what,
spot.
Jeff, they changed their rates. They increased their
Uh-oh.
rates.
Yeah. What's new?
Yeah.
What they need to get is internet in there.
Oh, yeah. They could charge, whatever a day for internet. That would be the
Yep.
best thing in the world.
That would really help out over there. But no, I figured a lot of people probably got it. I figured, Jerry, if you were out, you were gonna get it. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and
we
boy, to
were
be
literally
that
out. I
lucky.
was out for 6 hours and Jim was out for 7 hours.
Wow.
So
Well, what's nice is how bright it was. I would assume, because I've been up in Canada when the Northern Lights were out, I would assume it was so bright it would light up the ground too, where both of you guys were, right?
So
I
don't
didn't
know.
notice that. We had snow
did-
cover over
yeah.
here. And, I was looking to see if it was reflecting in the snow, and I didn't notice it. Maybe when I process my images, maybe, it'll show up.
Yeah, I think we had a little reflection in the water, but not a lot, but some. But I didn't notice any reflection or it lighting up because we were totally snow covered. So I think it was just bright from the snow. But but I don't really have any pictures of the aurora going. Well, I guess I do have some going down to the snow. Mostly you were just shooting up because that's where it was. It was, I don't know what to say. It was incredible.
I can share a picture here that it's not one I took. My coworker's neighbor took this with a smartphone, and it shows the reds. It shows. I'll just share it. It's not my picture, but this is here in central Wisconsin. It was about 2 a.m. when he shot this, apparently, because I asked him.
Yeah,
So-
you got the reds in there.
With a smartphone, you got the
Wow.
red, you got reflection down on the what's left of the ice and snow. I don't know, I was hoping last night because I was out later and there was just nothing. There I don't know what planet is up by the moon, but that was very, very bright. But I saw nothing as far as aurora last night up here. But this was Thursday night.
Yeah, I just posted one on Facebook. Probably my favorite one. I actually haven't gone through all of them. And I was experimenting with a new camera too, because I also have the Z6 II. And it was, it's new, so it's all experiment with me. But it was interesting, and it was cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent an hour and a half outside, trying to get some pictures and that. So it's getting a little cool towards the end, but it was like 38, so it wasn't too bad down here.
I can recommend another website for the Northern Lights, and that's Space Weather Prediction Center. It's the NOAA, and the web address is swpc.noaa.gov.com.
Thank you.
Did you put
There's a
that?
lot of them out there. I put 2 of the iPhone apps that I use, the Space Weather Live app and the Aurora Pro. I know Aurora Pro was showing that where I was, it was at 7. And it was going to be like that for a couple hours. So
I know softservenews.com that has the graph, but I think some of the other websites have it also.
yeah, Aurora Pro and Space Weather Live have graphs, and actually Space Weather actually shows where you can see it, and it's the first time that their photo of the Earth showed that the aurora was coming past Wisconsin into Chicago to be able to be seen. I doubt if you could see it in Chicago with all the light, but if you got to a dark area, I bet you. I heard somebody in Racine was able to see the greens, and that's pretty far south.
Yeah, we had one of my friends had it in Brookfield. Has posted an image.
Yeah.
It was green, nothing big, but it was very nice. So worthwhile.
Yeah.
But then all the BZs were going in the right direction. I mean, they were at -16, -17. I've never ever seen that before either. Never.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, it was interesting. We got a question. Does anybody have any info on the planet alignment on Monday night? I got to admit, I wasn't paying attention to what was out there. I heard something, but I don't remember what planet it was. It looks like somebody mentioned.
It's supposed to be the alignment of 5 planets.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know any details. I just happened to come across that as a headline and didn't pursue it any further, but
Yeah.
there's information online.
Yeah. No, interesting. Anybody else have any questions?
I have a
Got 2
question.
minutes? Sure.
On
Sure
Space
thing.
Weather Prediction Center, where do you find the information about the aurora borealis?
Yeah, does anybody know?
'Cause I just pulled it up. It's the first time I've been on their app. And I'm not seeing anything unless I'm just not sure what I should be looking at.
Yeah, on the space weather,
On NOAA's website, the Space Weather Prediction
oh,
Center.
okay. I gotta admit,
Can you do a search for the Space Weather Prediction Center while you're in on that page? I just sent the link to not the link, but the web address. I typed it in to the chat room. Maybe that's what you're looking at. But I get it automatically, but I don't see any appendage to it. So maybe if you searched within the website for Space Weather Prediction Center, that should come up.
Oh,
Either that or
is that part of the well, no, I pulled up Space Weather Prediction Center, but then I appear to be at their homepage, because that it says that right on top. It's the Space Weather Prediction Center. But then what should I be looking at to know if there are going to be if the aurora is going to be out?
If you scroll down, do you see the pictures of the?
Oh, I found it. I didn't go down the aurora forecast.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just didn't go down far enough.
Okay.
Sorry.
And the more red you see, and the further south on the map and on the continent, on North America. The further south it comes, and you could see there's green in the area of Wisconsin there, like dark green, that indicates that there might be, you might be able to see it. But if you were further north, like in Canada, where it's red, that shows, a higher KP value, and you'd have a better chance of seeing it. But that's pretty strong, actually. What it's showing right now is pretty strong.
Okay, on mine, I'm just seeing stuff up in what looks to be Alaska and Canada.
Yeah, and that's generally where it stays most of the time.
Okay, okay.
It doesn't pop down that often. That's why what happened on Thursday night, and even a little bit last night, that some of the highest readings that we've seen in a long, long time. I don't think it's been this strong since maybe about 30 years ago when we could see it down here. So
And these predictions are not that accurate all the time.
No.
You might get a prediction like a day before that it's going to be really great, and nothing materializes.
Yeah.
It can be very disappointing. And other times, like it happened to me the other day, where it looked like nothing was going to happen, and then suddenly it got extremely accurate. It depends on the solar activity. The storms might pop up.
Yeah, we've had
you're
that
right on that.
experience too, where it showed a possibility of a 1 or 2K, and we were up in Minnesota, and it ended up, that was probably the last time we had the lights right above us, but they did not last for 5 hours or 6 hours as it did last night, or the nights ago.
Even spaceweather.com, they said that they weren't even predicting that, and it did happen where it really blew up in size and that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very hit and miss. Ken, who I travel with all the time, he's been trying to catch auroras for 30 years. And of course, the one week he picks Florida to go to is when he could have caught it and not have to travel that far.
I was thinking of both of you last night as I was standing on the deck of the fish, and I had stopped at the reception desk up at the casino to check to make sure nobody was staying there, and asked permission to hang out on the deck, and they said no problem. So I split my time between there and in front of the Eagle. The Eagle is great because it's right on the water. The fish is great because it's bigger and newer. It's nice. Those are the only two I think we stay at. So.
Yeah, I know. I can never remember the one. I think we used that bigger one, the fish.
You were in the fish, it's number 6.
Yeah.
We were in the Eagle, it's number 2.
It's a 3-bedroom. A little farther away from the Hollow Rock spot, but it does have a nice open bay area that works pretty well.
All you got to do is deal with the guy across the bay that has the the light on all the time.
Big night light on.
I was, I shot a lot from there, but the problem there is you're getting trees and branches in the way.
Yeah.
But still, it's a great place.
No.
Gary, that's in Door County that you guys are talking about?
No, we're talking about Grand Portage, Minnesota.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which is again 10 miles this side of the Canadian border up. It's a 9-hour drive from here.
Oh, okay. I thought you were the one that shot from Door County last night.
Yeah.
I was the one that shot from Door County.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
But it was visible. I think as far as where Waupun, I think they were seeing it in that area.
Okay.
Pretty decent. But if you go on Great Lakes Aurora, there's a zillion pictures of people that have posted.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people have posted 3, 4, 5. I just post one image at a time. So
The Mackinac Bridge, they had that pretty lit up pretty nice, in that with the bridge in the background, like it was gorgeous.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I even saw lighthouse the lighthouse in Racine. They showed the aurora in the background because it was dark enough out there. So that was pretty good. So there he is. Hey, Mike, welcome.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Not too bad. We're just talking about the aurora that hit us on Thursday night. So
Yeah, I was listening in, and we actually saw them all the way down here in Texas.
Wow.
did you?
It's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah, we had the reds and kind of greens on the horizon up here. So pretty rare storm.
Yeah. I was saying I don't think I've seen one this strong since about 30 years ago. And at least it was when I was shooting film and I got it on film. So down by me here. So that's pretty strong.
Here, I just put a link in the chat for you guys, for anybody who is on Facebook. It's a buddy of mine. He captured some time lapse of the Northern Lights up by Amarillo. And so you can see that on his Facebook page there, which is just crazy. I know I saw photos from Death Valley. I saw photos from just north of Phoenix. I can only imagine what you guys saw at the higher latitudes.
Yeah, we were getting a lot of reds, so it was amazing. So interesting. So
they never get old.
No. I got a friend that's been trying to catch it for the last 20 years, and he picked this week to go down to Florida to photograph birds.
Oh no.
And I know that when he
man.
comes back, he's going to just kick himself because he's been chasing it and has not caught one, not a very good one yet. So
yeah, it's tough. And I mean, and it feels like most of the forecasts missed what happened this week too. So it's just kind of one of those, hey, if you have clear skies, go out, this is happening kind of moments.
But you know, this is the start of the 11-year cycle. So we should have more of them. Maybe not this strong, but we should have some more good ones coming up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. If this is what's to come.
Yeah.
That'd be
nice.
exciting. So, oh yeah.
No. Excuse me. So, well, welcome, Mike, to our group today. He's been on before, talked about, I think, storm photography the last time. So, Mike, you want to give us a little of your background of how you got into this?
Yeah, I'm just a giant nerd. Let's see. So first off, thanks for having me back, you guys, and I appreciate you being flexible. I know we had a little kind of delay in my presentation, so I appreciate the flexibility there. So yeah, a little bit about myself is just I am a photographer based out of Dallas, Texas, and gosh, I could give you the long story, and that'll take over our session. But long story short. I started photography back when I was 15, so we're looking at 23 years ago now. And if you do the math, you can figure out how old I am. But that was never intended to be my career. It was just something that kind of fell into my lap as a hobby, and then grew into something as, okay, let's make a little bit of extra cash on the side, doing family photos and selling a few prints here and there. And then I really don't know what happened. It was just chaos in a very good way, big snowball effect, and doors just open left and right. And my portfolio, a lot of people always like, you've shot everything, and I have. I took every opportunity I could to expand my career, and I shot weddings for 7 years. I shot professional sports, NHL, MLB, NBA for 6 years. I shot a lot of live music for about 7-8 years, and I'll still do that every now and then. And then I still do a lot of commercial work. I do a lot of educational work as well. So I teach workshops all over the world. This year has been quite the start already with, I taught down in Antarctica, which was really cool. No pun intended. And going back there in 2025 for 2 back-to-back workshops. So that's pretty cool. And then I get ready to go to Patagonia in 2 weeks. I just got back from Norway about a month ago. So I do a lot of teaching, but I also do a lot of work. I do a lot of work with different publications in regards to more of like extreme nature, so volcanoes and tornadoes and that kind of stuff. But I also still do work with different publications for, say, just landscapes and northern lights and all that goodness. So a little bit of everything. Only thing I don't really photograph anymore is babies. I just ran out of patience for photographing babies, but I'll still do a wedding here and there. I'll still do some commercial work and still do some aviation work is the other thing that I really love that I do. A lot of people don't know that I do a lot of air-to-air photography. So we're in one airplane photographing another airplane in the air,
Wow.
which is always fun. So yeah, so that's kind of everything in a nutshell.
Neat.
I do a lot of work with Nikon, so I'm a Nikon shooter. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. We'll call it.
Yeah. How'd you get started with the volcano stuff?
You know, you're gonna have to wait and listen.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave you in suspense.
So we'll lead right into that, since that's what we have you here for today. Although we got torn for a while because we know the storm season is coming up here real quick. We thought about switching to that, but I know everybody would love to see at least what photos I've seen of your volcano stuff is just amazing. So I'll let you go on with your presentation with that. I'm dying
Right
to see
on.
more
Okay.
pictures.
Cool. Well, let me give me 1 second here. I am pulling
Sure.
up my keynote here. So give me one
Yep.
second. It's funny because right before I hopped on the call with you guys, my computer's like, oh, an update's available. Do you want to update? I just by default hit, yeah, sure. And then it's like 34 minutes remaining. It's like,
yeah.
oh, I've got a backup computer, but it's funny because my whole presentation is on this computer. So I was like, well, at least I could talk with you guys and communicate with you guys while this one's finishing up, but it is all done here. So I'm just I actually wanted to drop one image into the keynote for you real fast here, and I'm going to do that
No
just
problem.
now. There we go. All right. And you'll understand why this image is now in here. All right, so here we go. Okay, so I'm going to get Keynote open here, and we'll close out that there. And I'm going to share my screen, and you guys should be able to see my good old Keynote. Can you see that?
Yep.
All right, so there we go. All right, so full screen, everything looking okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So
Plopping on and off, but we got a black screen now. But we had it for a second.
Get a black. Is it back now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is interesting. I don't know if you guys have experienced this before, but Keynote, if you or Zoom, if you share a Keynote, do you see the presentation now?
Yeah, I can see the original Keynote presentation.
Okay. And now full screen.
Not yet. No.
No.
Still just the keynote.
Okay, so let me go ahead and I want to stop share because I was sharing just the keynote. Let me just share my entire screen here.
Yeah, that might be it. Sometimes that stuff gets. I've
it gets
had fun
tricky
stuff
at
with that too.
times. Okay, so let's see here now. How about now? We full screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so Keynote and Zoom sometimes get a little finicky together.
Yeah, they do.
And do you guys see a black box anywhere floating around on my screen?
No.
Okay, so that's something else I've learned is if you optimize for video, then you get a black box where your little thumbnails are. So I don't optimize for video unless I absolutely have to. And I've got a couple of video clips in here. So if we get to that point, I might have to switch it over to optimize the video to play the video better. But let's just kind of take it a slide at a time here. But you guys can see this beautiful photo of yours truly in front of a volcano, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I always like to start off with a little bit of fun. So this is myself in front of the volcano back in 2021. I figured it was the perfect scene to pull out my my good old little T-Rex outfit and you know, bring us back to the dinosaur age. Little did I know that this is what would actually end up eventually making me TikTok famous with 3 million views, which is ridiculous. So let's get rolling here. All right. So now it's all black on my end. Okay, there we go. All right. So where does it all begin? If you guys caught my storm session, gosh, I can't remember when that was. It seems like yesterday, but I know it wasn't. But this is
little less than a
yours
year
truly.
ago.
Okay, so yeah, it might be fresh in your brain here. You know, you could never forget those beautiful orange shorts I'm wearing here.
Yeah.
But how did I get into volcanoes? You know, Jeff, you asked that just a little while ago, and it all stems from my love for nature. So my love for nature started off with storms. That's my pride and joy. Volcanoes are now probably tied with that for my pride and joy. But I fell in love with storms at an early age. This is me at the age of 16 with my younger brother. And that is my car, which I drove to high school every single day. And it's also now a good reflection back onto why I never had a girlfriend in high school. But I fell in love with the weather and I fell in love with nature. And I spent a lot of my time over the past, probably let's call it 15 years or so, documenting storms across the globe. Essentially, you know, my focus was mostly Tornado Alley, but wherever there's storms, I'm going to photograph them. And with storms, they're beautiful. Every single one's different. And, you know, I spoke about this in my last presentation, how you can go to Half Dome in Yosemite and Half Dome's always going to be there. You can go to the Statue of Liberty. Statue of Liberty is going to be there. Storms are one of those rare subjects that you can photograph that are just temporary. You know, you have minutes to a few hours at times to photograph something before it literally vanishes into thin air. So I fell in love with storms and the temporariness of them and the power of them. You know, these are things that we're looking at that have been around since the creation of this world. You know, it's really cool to get to share that moment with nature out there. But I don't want to say that I got bored with storms. That's the wrong word choice. Let's just say that storm season typically lasts from, we'll call it mid-March to early to mid-June, more so actually late June these days. So it's really, you know, you're looking at like a 3-month period out of the year. So for somebody who is just absolutely obsessed with nature, and more specifically, you know, extreme nature things, you know, my mind kind of got to the point of like, okay, well, what else is out there? And so I got into this whole mindset of, well, tornadoes are great, storms are great. Hurricanes, I have no interest in. I could go sit in a car wash 2 blocks down the road and save the money driving all the way down there. You know, there's no visuals with hurricanes except for the destruction. Blizzards are great. Blizzards can be quite unique, but for many of you guys, you know, I live in Texas and those aren't really readily accessible per se. So, you know, I didn't really want to travel to say upstate New York or into the North Plains just to chase snow. It didn't really ignite my passion that deeply. So I was thinking around and I was like, you know what, volcanoes, I've always been intrigued by those ever since I was young, like looking through the science books. So what about volcanoes? Well, how in the world can I go to photograph one? And that's when in 2015, I learned about Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. And if you guys have been there, it is absolutely incredible. It's one of the places in the world where you have access to an active volcano in a relatively quote unquote safe environment. And I went there in 2015 and then this is what I saw. This is the Halema'u crater. It is a giant hole in the ground and with a little bit of glow from the lava lake. And this is all I saw. And I was just fascinated. I was like, oh man, that is so cool. I'm seeing a hole in the ground that's glowing. I want to see more. And this is what I saw back then. Like it was literally just that, but it sparked an interest of like, hey, I want to get closer. I want to feel it. I want to see it. I want to smell it. I want more of this powerful subject that is really the reason that this, you know, we have the land that we have. So 2016, I watched really closely as to what was going on in the Kilauea volcano. And it started having a flow called the 61G lava flow. It's coming down from the Pu'o vent and coming down the Pali, which is this kind of sloped area. And it was going towards the ocean. And I said, you know what, let's go, booking a trip. So I booked a trip out there and I landed and I immediately went, what in the heck am I doing? I know nothing about volcanoes and I'm about to go walk out on one. So I contacted a guy that I followed who has now become a great friend and mentor named Bruce Amori. He is out of Hilo, Hawaii. He is the guru of volcano photography. And so I hit him up and I said, here's what I want to do. And we'd follow each other on social for a while. And so he said, come on out, let me show you the ropes. And I was like, well, funny you already say, come on out, because I'm here. And so he introduced me to the ropes of getting out into the actual active flows of the volcano. And, you know, my biggest fear was, hey, I don't want an accident step on lava. And he said, that's the least of your fears. You'll know when you're close and you'll feel it. There are other hazards as in regard to SO2 gases, acid rain, collapsed lava tubes. There's all sorts of, tephra, which we'll get into later. It's all sorts of hazards that come with this. And he said, that's the worst or least of your worries is stepping on lava. So this is the moment that I really first saw lava. And I had gone out there with just, I want to shoot this lava with a beautiful sunset and create this epic photo. Well, what's one issue that you see here with that vision that I had? If you're going out for an epic sunset, you need clouds.
Yeah,
First time I went out there, crystal clear. So I said, well, this is amazing. I'm excited for it, but I don't know if I'm gonna get the photo I want. These are the two photos I walked away with from that afternoon. The one on the left was the lava coming down the Pali with a little bit of a kind of orange light illuminating in the sky from the gases. The one on the right is what kickstart everything unintentionally. So the one on the right is a single frame, no HDR, no compositing. It is one frame shot at 2000 ISO, 25 seconds at f2.8. And what I did, and if you go to my website, you'll be able to go to my blog and you'll see the write-up for this shot and the actual off the camera shot. I exposed for the highlights and I pulled up the shadows and the blacks with the dynamic range of the camera. Back then it was I believe it was a D800 I had. And I got the lava beneath the Milky Way with a quarter moon and iridium flare coming down the top left side of the frame. And in the middle of the frame, you could also see, if you look closely, you know where to look, there's Mars and Venus as well in there. Sorry, Mars and Jupiter, I believe it is. So a lot going on here. I posted this image and it went completely viral. And I started getting emails left and right from people that are like, hey, do you have any more volcano work? Do you have more volcano work? And one of those was actually National Geographic. And they ended up licensing this image to put in their National Geographic Junior magazine, which is pretty cool. And after that, it was just, once again, kind of a snowball effect of, hey, we want more volcano images. So I spent a lot of time the last, let's call it 7 years now, documenting Kilauea in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. And, you know, the cool thing that got me hooked on this volcano in particular was it is a living, breathing thing. You know, it's different every time you go, the way the lava lake is, the way the glow is, the way that the volcano is behaving. And so I shot the heck out of it. I wanted to document it. And what we're going to end up getting to in this presentation is my experience in 2018 with Kilauea and how it changed. And we'll get to that in a little bit here. But with Kilauea came more and more of a passion for volcanoes. So 2 years ago, I started traveling around the globe, documenting different volcanoes. And one of those volcanoes was the Fuego volcano in Guatemala, which is pictured here. Way different volcano than Kilauea in Hawaii. So Kilauea is a shield volcano. It's rather tame, quote unquote. Fuego is a stratocone volcano. It's very, very explosive. It's unpredictable. It is a volcano to be respected. In 2018, it killed, I believe, over 800 people because it produces these gigantic pyroclastic flows that race down the side of the volcano and into the valley and the towns below. So I've spent a lot of time out here documenting the volcano. It's one of those environments you love to hate to be in, or you hate to love to be in, I guess you should say. You're at almost 14,000 feet in elevation. It is miserable. It's cold. It's windy. It's hot as anything during the day. It's freezing at night. The hike is horrible. You're on one volcano, photographing another volcano. And if you want to hike onto the Fuego volcano, it is like walking through sand for miles to get to it. But it is absolutely beautiful and completely different in terms of the dynamics and the visuals that you capture here in regards to what I'm familiar with, or what I was familiar with Kilauea. Kilauea, you don't get these big bursts of ash and projectiles. You get more of the fountains, or sometimes it's just more of the active surface flows that kind of ooze out from the volcano. The cool thing about Fuego, though, that I do love is, even though the hike to get there and the environment you stay in is absolutely just not fun. We can call it other things, but we'll keep it at a professional manner here. It is not fun. You are so high up that often you are above a lot of the clouds. So the view you get with the night sky is absolutely incredible. So this is a 6-image panorama I took of Fuego erupting with the Milky Way rising about 4 o'clock in the morning. And on the left, you can also see the now extinct Agua volcano. So Guatemala is a wonderful place for volcanoes. They have 34 active volcanoes. And right now there are 3 that are currently erupting. Now, what is it like? A lot of people ask me, what is it like when you're documenting volcanoes? Well, each one's different. So let me give you a little taste into what Fuego is like. So let's see if this will play. Maybe will it play? Okay, so Fuego, there we go. You sit and you wait and you wait and you continue to wait and you stare at this volcano pretty much all day long, ready with your cameras, one rolling video, one rolling, or you're ready for stills. And then when it happens, you start shooting because it just comes out of nowhere. There's no warning sign, nothing. And these projectiles that you guys see, these projectiles are the size of vehicles. So when you're out there, you feel, we hike to right around this area here, if you can see my mouse. When you're out there, you're wearing a little helmet and you feel kind of silly. You're just like, whoa, what is this really gonna do? But that's where you get those really up close detail shots. And I don't know, did my sound come through on that?
No, the sound didn't.
No sound? Okay. Okay, so let me go ahead real fast and see if I can optimize it to play the sound here. It's interesting that it didn't play the sound. If you can imagine what it sounded like a, but let's see. Okay, I think it's actually.
Yeah, it could be the Zoom part isn't picking up when you shared the screen.
Okay, so let's see here. We're gonna optimize. Okay, share. All right, so let me play this one more time. All right. Now can you guys hear sound? Some static?
Yeah, hearing static.
Okay, all right, so now you'll get to hear what it's like.
Yeah, I really didn't hear anything. Oh, there it goes.
There you go.
Oh, there's you're so far away, you get the delay from.
Exactly.
Wow.
And the funny thing though is you're really only a mile away. Peak as the crow flies, peak to peak, you're only a mile away.
Wow.
But pretty incredible. And this is what it looks like at night.
Whoa!
So completely different kind of visuals day to night. So nighttime, you're shooting long exposures, you're creating those trails of the projectiles, which is that first image I showed you guys. And then the daytime, you're shooting faster shutter speeds, you're trying to capture those projectiles and the energy behind them. So after Fuego, actually went right down the road about 3 hours to Pacaya. This is another one of Guatemala's volcanoes that's erupting. And the cool thing about Pacaya and the difference between them is that this is yet again a stratocone volcano, but this is not one that is very explosive like Fuego is. It tends to put down these rivers of lava that are miles long, but it can also give you big fountains of lava as well, coming into the air, more of like a Strombolian style eruption, which is named after the Stromboli volcano in Italy. So as you can see, these three volcanoes right off the bat, Kilauea, Fuego, and Pacaya, they're all very different. And here's a shot of, you can just see how close the two volcanoes are. This is Pacaya on the right and Fuego erupting way off in the distance there on the left. And then you have the Acatenango Vega volcano just to the right, and then the Agua volcano a little bit further to the right. So you got four volcanoes all lined up here. So yeah, they're all different. And you know, one of the coolest experiences I've had over the past couple of years documenting is going to Iceland. When the Fagradalsfjall volcano erupted in 2021, I wanted to get right over there and start photographing it. But you guys may or may not have heard of something called COVID. And that really tested my patience with being able to get over there, because when Fagradalsfjall started erupting, Iceland was still in complete lockdown. They weren't allowing anybody over there. And when they finally opened their borders, you had to be vaccinated and you had to go through all sorts of tests to get over there. And I was actually on the first American flight over to Iceland and was able to get to Fagradalsfjall right when it was erupting, which is kind of cool because the way that it started erupting, it had one main fissure, and then it had a second fissure that opened up on pretty much the time when I was flying over. And by the time that I left, there had been 8 fissures that had opened up. So
Wow.
it was actually kind of funny how it worked out with the delay in being able to get over there. Because if I had gone over right at the beginning, I would have really, really missed the show that was about to happen. So cool thing about Fagradalsfjall is, unlike, say, Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, Iceland had no rules in regards to how close you could get. And that allowed me to get really, really close to document some of the scenes I wanted to document there. And for me, I tend to focus a lot on the big pictures, but also the details within the eruptions. And you'll see some of those images coming up here. But this is a really, really big Pohoihoi flow coming at me here. And because of the leniency there, I was able to get really close. And people are like, hey, Mike, how close did you get? Well, close enough to where I melted my pants. So luckily I had another layer on underneath that and it didn't stick to my skin, but also close enough to where I was able to get close to some of the fissures erupting and shoot shots like these, where what you're looking at here, this is probably about a 9-foot wide chunk of lava being lobbed into the air. And this is shot on a 24-70 at about 50 millimeters. So really, really close. And the cool thing about shots like this, you know, you have these huge wide scenes with all of these different fissures erupting, but there's so many details to be had, details in the lava being flung in the air, details in the lava that was actually, you know, moving across the landscape there. And one of the things that I love about photographing volcanoes of lava in particular is it's cool because you're looking at the newest land on Earth getting created right there in front of you. So, you know, the spot that I was standing at right here where I took this shot, and this is about a 1 second long exposure time to just kind of create a lava fall, you know, kind of the same technique you'd use to create waterfall motion. You know, a few minutes before this was just grass, and then the lava moved in, and you know, that's to me, it's just so cool to how you're watching this land that no one will ever see again be taken over.
Yep. Mike froze.
Just like the rock. Beautiful picture, though.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, those are some gorgeous shots and beautiful. And I was thinking, like, boy, how hot is that? Boy, it's I'd be afraid it's like my camera's gonna melt.
That's what I was thinking. If his pants melted, what happened to
Yeah.
his lens?
Yeah, what's happening to the camera?
The skies were so beautiful too.
Yeah.
He's back.
Okay,
You made it.
can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Oh,
But you got too
technology-
close.
Right? Technology is on one today here. So let me go back here to Keynote. Can you guys see my Keynote again?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Share.
Yeah or no?
Nope.
No.
Not sharing your screen.
That's a really good reason as to why you're not seeing it.
That sometimes helps.
Yeah, I have no idea what just happened there. That was really weird. Okay,
Yeah,
so
maybe sunspots.
right.
It actually, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's screwing up a lot of this stuff. So
That is weird. Okay, so now you should be able to see it. Yeah.
yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So as I was saying before, the sunspots messed everything up. The ability to fly drones gave us perspectives that you couldn't get, even with helicopters or planes or anything like that. So Iceland, basically, they had one rule there is, hey, come enjoy the show, don't die. So we were able to get incredible shots like this where we flew right over some of the fissures, and you're able to see the boiling and the bubbling of the lava and the spattering of it. And it's just really, really cool to be able to have that freedom, which is something that a lot of countries don't allow you to do. Iceland, they have this very deep connection. They have this deep rooted connection with the volcanoes there because they're known as the land of fire and ice. So for them, volcanoes erupting, as long as they're erupting in a safe location, they have a big party. So they say, come on out. People are out there having beers right next to the lava. And for us that want to document it, it was really cool because we could do anything we wanted, spend as much time out there as we wanted. Nobody was there to say, hey, we're closed, go home. It was a really, really great experience. So documenting volcanoes, it's difficult, especially during the night. So my favorite time to really document them is more so during those like twilight hours. Nighttime, the dynamic range is just really pushed of the scenes. You have really bright lava against really dark volcanic land and soil. So it makes it quite challenging, but it is possible to pull off if you know how to kind of work the dynamic range within the camera. So last but not least, before we actually get into the big story here, the most recent volcano I've documented, and you guys may have heard about, was the Mauna Loa volcano erupting in Hawaii back in December. And this was a very special eruption because the Hawaiians, kind of like the Icelanders are more like, hey, it's party time. The Hawaiians, they're more like, hey, it's worship time when it comes to volcanic eruptions. Pele is the goddess of lava there, so they worship her. So when Mauna Loa started erupting, which is a very sacred region of the country, a lot of people came out just to kind of pay respects to Pele, which was really cool to see. And that kind of forced me to document this eruption in a little bit different manner. It was more about the connection that people had with the eruption and kind of the celebration that was going on. You would go around and you'd see lots of gifts left for Pele. Some of them were flowers, some of them were tea tree leaves, and you'd have all sorts of different offerings to Pele. And what was very interesting is if you look in this photo here, you can see an area where the lava is coming down Mauna Loa, and then it fans out at the bottom. Well, what they had down there is they had a lot of the indigenous Hawaiians walking around in front of the lava picking up trash because they wanted Pele to move into a fresh and clean home. So although the lava from a scientific standpoint would essentially obliterate this litter, they were out there cleaning it up to make sure that Pele had a nice clean home to come into. The challenge with Mauna Loa for myself was actually, the eruption was occurring at 12,000 feet. So it was very, very high up in an area that was darn near impossible to get to on foot. So a lot of my documentation was via aerials, and These are some of the images from flying high above 12,000 feet via helicopter. And you can see the fissure here erupting, the lava flowing down Mauna Loa. But at the top there, I am not even going to try and pronounce the name of the crater up there, but that is the crater at the top of Mauna Loa where the initial eruption about a week prior took place and then moved down the rift. From the air, though, it was one of my favorite places to photograph eruptions. You get to see the lava in a different light, in a different perspective. You see details, you see shapes, you see things called lava bergs, which are those black items floating down the lava there. And they're, very reminiscent of icebergs floating away, but except they're, big chunks of cooled lava. You're seeing just how the landscape is being changed and cut through. The lava in volcanoes, they're so, unstoppable. So here it's really unique to see this perspective, how the lava is making its way from Mauna Loa towards Mauna Kea. And if you look very closely towards where that lava starts fading off, you can see this horizontal line, this gray line that comes across left to right about 2/3 up or just a little bit above halfway across the frame. That's one of the roads that the lava cut off, and it just went right across, no problem. And there's nothing we could do about it. And the cool thing about this image too is this actually, if you get Science magazine, this was the cover of Science magazine last month for February. So that's kind of cool. They did a whole story on Mauna Loa. So you guys have heard a few different stories from shooting volcanoes and what I'm looking for and what the experiences are like. But I like to share this story of documenting Kilauea, because Kilauea has this very special place in my heart, but in a very different light. This was in 2018. If you guys remember hearing on the news back then about Kilauea erupting, and it erupted in a location or neighborhood known as Leilani Estates. So when the eruption started taking place, what happened, and it was very interesting, is all that lava that was in the Halima'uma'u crater and the Pu'u'o craters vanished. There's a huge earthquake, and it emptied the entire crater, both craters, of all the lava. So the big question was, when this happened, was, holy cow, where did it all go? Because it had to go somewhere. The scientists, USGS scientists, tracked a few earthquakes, and then a few more and a few more. Before I knew it, there were thousands of them per day. And they were able to track that the magma was now moving down into the lower east rift zone of Hawaii, which the big island of Hawaii. And it was putting Leilani Estates, this neighborhood, right in the crosshairs of where the lava was moving. So on May 1st, the eruption started, and literally somebody just looked in their backyard and saw lava start erupting out. And I was in New York at the time visiting family. And when I saw all this going on, I knew I was heading out. And I waited and I waited and I waited. And I kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm waiting too long. Should I go? But then I was like, you know what? I just need to go. And I had National Geographic Spain kind of sponsoring me to go out there. And what we had originally thought about was showing the humanitarian efforts going on to evacuate this entire neighborhood. And so I got there, and everywhere I went, I had to be escorted by the military, because it was a very political eruption, actually. Civil patrol and the military took the reins on controlling access to where the lava and the fissures were erupting. And so unlike anything else journalistic, this was very controlled to where we could go, where we couldn't go. So when I told Major Jeff Hickman, who was the major who was assigned to protecting my butt, what I wanted to do, he kind of laughed, and he was just like, I don't think you're going to find anybody down there. And that's where the story starts. It starts with these two guys, because this was, for the most part, the only two people that I found down in Leilani Estates when I got there. I was late. Everybody had just packed up shop and gone. They vacated everything, and they evacuated everything. So we kind of spent a few days together, the military and I, just walking around and trying to see what stories could be told, because, you know, like I said, my initial story was talking about, hey, let's get people evacuating, let's show the efforts going into it, but everybody had already pretty much left. So I was looking around, and it's a very interesting scene down there. It was like nothing I'd experienced before. It was frustrating in a way to have the military control everywhere that I could or couldn't go, because I don't like that. I like, you know, putting, you know, sometimes myself at risk to get the shots that I want to get and the stories that I want to tell. But it's also very nice to have somebody there with pretty much a cell phone to be able to call a Black Hawk helicopter if we needed one to get out. And that was nice, because the environment was dangerous. And I understand now why we were kind of controlled to where we could go, because you not only had lava to deal with, you had a lot of gases. You also had issues like this, where you would have magma moving underneath the roads, and you would literally see these cracks open up right in front of you as magma was moving, just, you know, anywhere from 10 to maybe, let's call it 50 feet below the road. So at any point in time, you could have an eruption start right in front of you. And that's what happened here, is we had these areas where the road started cracking. And then a few hours later, if you look down the road, that is where lava started coming out. And so we were a couple hundred feet away from where lava was. So if I was out there by myself and got myself in a predicament, it wouldn't have been that great. But being in a predicament with the military and a Black Hawk helicopter available is also a little bit nicer. It's kind of like that warm hug. So I continued to search around to try and figure out what in the heck my story was going to be. I needed something. And it was a very surreal scene there, per se. So, you know, seeing shots like this one on the left with playgrounds where, you know, kids have played, but, you know, memories have been made, you know, I'm sure birthday parties had happened. And then just a couple hundred feet away, you have a huge fissure of lava erupting in the background. And if you look closely on the ground, you could see all these lava rocks that had been ejected from the fissure, just scattered throughout the landscape there. Same thing on the right side. This house, I found this scene and thought it was really unique, because you're looking at the house and it's just lit up orange, but what you don't see is right behind me is a huge fountain of lava erupting. So this house, which, you know, was once a peaceful residence, you know, they're now looking out their front windows. Well, they're not there, but, you know, metaphorically speaking, they're now looking at their front windows at essentially, you know, the creation of the newest land. The night sky was also fascinating. And it's kind of at this moment here where I started to really kind of hone in on, hey, I think I have an idea for a story. I remember just kind of sitting there, and I leaned up against one of the trucks, and I was just looking up, and I was stressed out because I didn't have a story. And I remember looking up, I was like, wow, this is really pretty. And this is about 10 o'clock at night. This is not sunset. This is just clouds reflecting the glow of lava. And I was like, you know what? There's really this beauty to this eruption. It's destructive. It's taking everything in its path. And, you know, it ended up destroying, I believe, over, I think it was over 860 homes. But there's a beauty to it. And that's where I started saying, hey, you know what? Maybe let me focus in on showing the beauty that's hidden within this destruction. So I started focusing on like the details once again. And this is a shot of the lava coming down the road here. And it's a tripoded shot, about 5 or 6 seconds long, if I remember correctly. And you can see, you can see the steam being blown back. But then again, the night sky has got this sunsetty glow. And this is about 11, maybe midnight. And so it looks like it's middle of the day, but there's this awkward kind of surreal beauty to it. And like the juxtaposition of like the road being overtaken and that power line down on the left side, but yet you have this kind of sunsetty color behind it. It's just, I started feeling there's something here. And so continued on, and I was photographing a lot of everything, let's call it. The details of the lava coming down the road, but the big fissures silhouetted against the trees there. This shot is one of my favorites because it doesn't, without the backstory, it doesn't really convey much. But once I tell you that that fountain of lava is over 300 feet tall, you start to get an idea of just how little we are when you see these tree lines just being overtaken by lava. Another shot here, lava coming down the road middle of the day. And, I have a previous shot of lava coming down the road, but this one to me is just, you look at the textures, you look at the glow, you look at the color in the lava, and you're like, oh, that's really pretty. But then if you look very carefully above the lava, it's so hot, it's tearing apart the road and just launching it into the air with the heat. So all those pieces of black that you see in the road are above the road in that kind of steam area, the cloud area, that's all just part of the lava, just literally just burning the road and launching it into the air. So you're like, wow, that's really pretty. But then you realize, holy cow, this thing is literally devouring everything in its path. Now, of course, as soon as I start getting an idea for my story, things start changing dramatically. And by dramatically, I mean, the amount of lava that this eruption produced was absolutely incredible. What you're looking at here is about a 60-foot tall lava dam. Okay. If you look at the top of it, you can see all the distortion in the atmosphere from the heat, right? And you see all the heat waves up there. Mm-hmm. There is a massive, and you'll get a perspective in a minute here, a massive river of lava flowing behind that. Now, when you have a dam, what's the last thing you want to happen?
It'll open up.
You want it to break, or you don't want it to break, right? Well, if you look about 3/4 of the way up, you see a big issue, right? So we were starting to have a lot of challenges, to say the least, with getting views, but also getting to areas safely. Because if that broke right there, that lava would be coming out at over 60 miles an hour and filling the area that we're in very, very quickly. So that is one of the sergeants coming back. And what he was doing is he was measuring SO2 gases before we can move into that area. And the SO2 gases were fine, actually. We were upwind here. But he noticed that. I obviously noticed it as well from my shot. And we both, let's just say, for lack of better words, couldn't get a toothpick between our butt cheeks at this moment. So we left this spot very quickly. So the challenges were we're starting to have these massive, massive dams of lava build up. You're also having substantial amounts of lava creating heat distortion. So this is a spot that I went to probably about 6 hours prior, and there was no lava in front of this fissure. So I could see it clear as day. And then we went back and the lava had kind of redirected itself. And all of a sudden, all these heat waves were now distorting the view. So you couldn't get these nice, crisp, clean scenes. It was all very hazy. We were also dealing with issues with the trade winds. The trade winds started to die down quite a bit. And what that created was this very stagnant environment where the sulfur dioxide gases that were being emitted from the eruption were, instead of kind of being dispersed by blowing away, they were now ponding and pooling in areas of lower elevation. So you can see down here, down this road, you've got a very dense kind of blue hue. That's all sulfur dioxide gases. And we basically had a couple of rules, and that was once we reached over I think it was 0.3 parts per million or something like that, with SO2, we had to essentially start kind of reconsidering our plan. 6 parts per million, we were at, okay, we are now putting on our gas mask, and 10 parts per million, we were out of there. When we were riding down to this area, I was sitting in the back of the pickup truck, and I look over and I see Major Jeff Hickman putting on his gas mask inside the car. And I said, well, I should probably do the same. So put on my gas mask, and all of a sudden I hear all these bells and whistles start going off, and we made this quick U-turn. And I took the shot looking down as we were kind of repositioning. And he said that they were measuring, I believe, it was 40 parts per million. And so extremely dense sulfur dioxide gases. So we had to get out of there very quickly. So we're starting to deal with that issue as well. And as more fissures continue to erupt, we also started dealing with this, and this is tephra. This is essentially what happens is the fountains of lava were throwing lava up in the air. It was cooling and turning into rock, and not heavy rock. It's actually really awkward. It's really airy rock. So it's almost weighs as much as a feather. And it was falling from the sky. Now, the problem with that is this is a piece of tephra right here. If you look closely, and it's going to be kind of hard to convey through Keynote, but there are areas where you can see these little pieces. It looks like hair, and that's called Pele's hair. And the problem with Pele's hair is it's acidic and it's abrasive. So if it lands on, say, like your car windshield and you throw on your windshield wipers, it will actually carve into the glass. It's also, as I mentioned, acidic. So if you get it wet and get it somewhere on you, like say your eye, that's not a good mix. And that unfortunately happened to me. A piece of this Pele's hair had blown underneath my visor. I was wearing a full gas mask with visor, but when I was putting it on, it had blown in there and it ended up landing on my eye. And I had some serious vision issues where I lost probably about 30% of my vision on my right eye for a few hours before I could really start to see again. So we started to kind of reconsider how close we can get. And this is one of the final photos that I took within Leilani Estates. 300-foot tall fountain of lava from Fissure 8. And I believe that's one of the US geoscientists out there looking at it. And with that being said, lots of hazards starting to form now with the tephra, the bad visibility, the trade winds, calming down, and we're having sulfur dioxide issues. Also, one of the things that I didn't get any photos of, but a lot of people like to know that this was a thing. This area of Hawaii is a rather poor area. So a lot of them just had septic tanks, and these septic tanks were buried underground. So if you can imagine what's happening here, you have lots of, 2000-degree magma moving underneath septic tanks. It was exactly what you were thinking. So we would hear these explosions of septic tanks blowing up underneath the ground and creating explosions above ground. So there was a lot going on. So on this day, this was kind of like my last little farewell to Leilani Estates, but I knew I wasn't done documenting it. I knew I had gotten some shots to kind of show the power and the beauty of this eruption, but I wanted more. So as I was heading out, I was like, you know what? I might be able to see something from Hilo. Now, this area from Hilo, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was about 28 miles away. When you got to Hilo, one last look here. This is looking back in the rearview mirror as we're getting ready to head on out. So you could see objects in the mirror closer than they appear. It was quite the moment here. Now, getting to Hilo, I said, you know what? Hey, I can see the lava from here. And I also heard rumors that the lava was starting to enter the ocean. So the lava had tracked 9 miles from Fissure 8, which is the main fissure that was sourcing the lava at that time, all the way down to the ocean. So I booked a boat. I said, let's go out. Well, lo and behold, the lava was indeed entering the ocean. And this is one of the first looks of that interaction where the lava is meeting the Pacific Ocean. This is before the sun's up. But as the sun came up, you started to get a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on here. And, this moment here, all you see is this really big glow. This moment here, you get to start seeing all the different fingers of lava feeding into the ocean and this huge pyrocumulus cloud that was coming up. Really, really powerful moment in my mind, because you're seeing that battle between the lava and the ocean. You're seeing the island grow right in front of you. And it was really cool to go out. I went out, I think, a total of 5 or 6 times to see it each day, how the lava was extending out and creating new land. I think there was a total of 654 new acres of land added to the island of Hawaii from this event. And the big picture was great, but also, like I said, the little picture, the small details of the lava converging and then dumping into the ocean, the way that the light and the color is reflecting off of the water and the steam. Just a very, very ethereal feeling. And also the pyrocumulus cloud that was coming up was absolutely incredible. You know, if I showed you guys this photo right here to start off, you'd be like, oh crap, Mike's got the wrong presentation up. He's showing the storms. This is indeed a thunderstorm that is forming from just the heat that is being put out by the lava and steam that's created. And the problem with this was it did form thunderstorms. You have an environment like Hawaii that's very rich in moisture, and then you have lava and sulfur dioxide creating these clouds. Well, the problem was we started dealing with acid rain. So anytime it would start to rain from this particular cloud in general, not necessarily the normal, you know, thunderstorms that they get, but this particular one in general, which stuck in the same place, you would have acid rain. And there were some of the journalists out there who had on rain jackets with little holes that had been burned in them from the rain, it was so much acidity to it that it was actually burning holes. So that was always fun. But once again, just seeing for me the ocean entry, the details was really, really cool and really unique to see. This one always reminds me of Gene Simmons for some reason. So if you're familiar with Gene Simmons from KISS, you could see the resemblance. But it was just fun to go out there. And it was also a place where I felt safe until this. You know, on land, you know, you're like, okay, I know I'm in a little bit of danger here. There could be, you know, cracks that open in the road. There could be a new fissure that opens up. There could be a septic tank that blows up, a power line that comes down. In the ocean, you're like, I can see where the lava is. I think I'm fine. Well, the problem was a lot of the lava was entering from the land, but there was also a lot that was entering from the ocean floor. And you would get these things that are called littoral explosions, and they sounded like depth charge going off. And the problem with these is there was absolutely no warning except for that giant that you would hear, and then about a second later, you're clenching your camera, hoping it's not happening under your boat. And you would see them explode up. And this is going probably 30, 40 feet up into the air. And you guys can see the different chunks of lava flying out, and they fly out. It's like a firework. It flies out 360 degrees. So you're pretty much hoping that this is not happening right next to you. And unfortunately, a week after I left, the boat that I was on, they got hit by one of these, and they had some injuries on the boat actually. And there's nothing you can do. There's no way to predict, hey, it's going to happen here, it's going to happen there. That's just a risk you're willing to take. And this happened on the last boat ride I took. And you could probably understand why that was the last boat ride I took. I said, all right, that was close enough. So let's move on to the next views. And the next views happen to be documenting from land again, but a little further away. I mentioned that you could see the eruption from Hilo. This is from Pahoja, which is about 8 miles or so, I believe, from the eruption site. They had moved all these antique cars out of Leilani Estates to this spot here. So I thought it was kind of a cool foreground. But you just see how you have the stars above and the night sky turning to day. Really unique. And from Hilo, this is what you could see here. And it may not look like much, but to me, it was quite interesting. On the far right, that really bright spot, that's fissure 8. That was what ended up becoming the main fissure of the event. And then if you follow the glow right to left, you can see on the left-hand side, that bright spot, that's the ocean entry. So that whole span, that bookend from left to right is 9 miles. And that's the entire path of the river lava there. So I said, hey, you know what? If I could see it from here, I wonder if I can see it from the top of Mauna Kea. So I took the drive up to Mauna Kea, which was, I believe, 44 miles from the eruption site. And got to the top of Mauna Kea. And I went full send. I didn't really stop anywhere. I just said, hey, I'm gonna go all the way to the top of Mauna Kea, which is almost 14,000 feet. And I got above the clouds, and you could see some of the clouds being illuminated in that orange over there. And that's the lava kind of working its way through the clouds. And I said, you know what, that's cool. And that's Hilo on the left-hand side. But I wonder if I could find a spot on this mountain where I can get myself right between the cloud deck and the land. And that was this spot here. This is the best I could muster up. But now you can see Fissure 8 on the far right. You can see the entire river lava coming all the way out to the left and then cutting around Green Mountain and then back to the right and the ocean entry. So it's a really cool perspective just to show, hey, this is what it looks like from a different perspective, not being so up close and personal with it. So from this moment here, I said, all right, well, I've shot it by land, I've shot it by sea. Where else can I go? Well, let's go up in the air. So chartered about 6 different helicopter flights, and getting up in the heli gave me access to so many different perspectives and really put the entire event to scale. And this is Fissure 8. This is the big mama that I've been referring to. It's putting out 28,000 gallons of lava per second at this moment here. So enough lava to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool every second. So here you are looking at a landscape that looks like something out of, you know, the dinosaur days. What you don't realize, though, is there were homes completely underneath all of this. This was once a neighborhood. You can see we get this shot right here, the event happening, and you can see all the homes that are still there, but also were there. That's Fissure 8 on the right-hand side. And down there on the bottom left, that is one of those perched channel areas breaking, that dam breaking. So remember that photo I showed you guys earlier where we were measuring the SO2 gases, but we also had a little weak spot in the dam. That's what could have happened right there. And that's an example of it happening. And if you look up where Fissure 8 is, and you can see kind of this line, this delineation up there from left to right, those are all the other fissures that had opened up. And some of them are still glowing, and some of them don't have anything that they're effusing at the time. But there ended up being 24 total in this entire event. You know, from the air, I wanted to still kind of document the beauty of the event. But there were definitely some moments where I was like, you know what, I need to show what's about to happen. I have photos of homes on fire and stuff like that. I don't like sharing those. But this shot I felt was okay to share because if you put two and together, you're going to understand what happens here. But I just don't like actually showing the event happen. There are also some very unique scenes to be captured from there. Moments that kind of made you scratch your head a little bit, like, okay, the lava took everything but, and it's also kind of a window into what was. You know, you have this road here, which was cutting through Leilani Estates. You know, people took this road every day to go surf down at the beach, go get their groceries, and all that's left of it is a small little, you know, maybe 200-foot portion of it. You could also see from the air the route that the lava took to get down to the ocean. It was very interesting how the terrain affected the path of the lava. So some of these houses were spared, some were taken, but you know, all of it was up to nature to decide. This tree right here, we hovered. I remember sitting here watching the lava come towards it, and I was like, all right, it'd be cool to kind of get this like burning bush scenario, right? Where the tree gets ignited by lava. Well, we waited, and the lava just diverted completely around it. So never ended up being engulfed by the lava. The lava just went around the tree, which is just kind of makes you scratch your head again, right? And this shot here is one of the more powerful shots to show how nature controlled this. You know, we think we're so powerful. We think we can do everything, you know, but in the big picture of it, we are tiny, little insignificant human beings on this gigantic planet. So what you're seeing here, it took me a minute when I was up in the air to figure out what was going on. On the left-hand side, everything's dead. The right-hand side, you still have, I believe there's a papaya farm and I can't remember what else they were farming, but they farm a bunch of different stuff. Green and lush, and they were still farming. This shows you the importance and the significance and the importance of the trade winds. The trade winds were carrying all the sulfur dioxide gases off to the left side of the frame, essentially suffocating that entire environment. The right-hand side was upwind. And even though some of these plants are maybe 10, 15 feet away from the lava, they were still flourishing and they were still able to farm them. So the lava controlled a lot, but the winds controlled, I feel like, even more. Going down towards the ocean, it was really cool to kind of play around with the steam, that big sulfur cloud that I've shown you guys a little while ago. It had breaks in it. And through those breaks, you had these little windows into all the different little rivers of lava that were flowing down. So it made for some really interesting and dynamic detail shots. Same here. So you're looking down straight out of the helicopter. We banked the helicopter to knock the skid out of the way, but you're looking at all these different rivers of lava that are entering. And I believe USGS counted over 300 entering the ocean at one time. So that is a copious amount of lava entering into the ocean. The detail shots, once again, not everything needed to be 14 to 24 or 24 to 70 millimeter shot. I also had with me a 200 to 400, which allowed me to hone in on some of the rivers of lava and the textures, which they kind of resembled like a reptile skin in my mind. But it was really interesting to see how some of the areas where the lava was moving fast, you didn't have these kind of plates of lava, but in some areas where the lava was moving slow and it slowed down, you'd get these plating effects where you just see a small glow of lava coming through as it was crusting on top. And this is one of those lava bergs that I talked about earlier, just kind of floating down. And I showed this to some of the locals there and they go, oh, that's Pele's Eye, which to each their own. I'm like, it's a piece of lava, but you know, they see Pele's Eye, so that is why this photo is named Pele's Eye. And to kind of, you know, start to wrap this up here, this shot, it's nothing crazy, but it is the newest land as part of this island. And if you look closely in the middle there, you can see this kind of pond, and they had a lot of ponds that were kind of called quote unquote fairy ponds that a lot of people would go and just hang out at and, you know, make memories at. And they were all destroyed by this event. And I saw this and I took this photo because, you know, the event ended, it started in May 1st of 2018. It ended in early August of 2018. But now the environment has obviously cooled down, and people are now going to these ponds to go and relax and make new memories. So as much of a devastating event as it was part of the Hawaiian culture, I guess. And I interviewed somebody there and asked them how they felt about the entire event. And they basically said, Pele does what she wants. And if she wants my home, she can have it, because if she didn't create this place, I wouldn't have a home in the first place. So it was very humbling on how they took this. And this is a before and after looking down the same street from the same location. So top is pre-2018. Bottom was obviously, I believe this was June of 2018. And I went back there last year, and it looks like, I wish I took a photo. I didn't take a photo, but it looks like the top photo again, minus the big fissure at the end of the road. All the vegetation has returned, which is really cool to see. Another kind of comparison of before and after. You guys can see what was and now what it is. Obviously, the area that's black, that's not going to have a lot of vegetation on it, but all the areas outside of that area now are flourishing with vegetation. And this is a look now at that first photo that I showed you, at where things are at now. So this is a huge change. It's so hard to convey through a photo. That little itty bitty glow that I showed you guys that I photographed way back when in 2015 has now turned into this, where it's over 3 miles wide, almost a mile deep. The lava has since returned to the Holly Mount crater, and it's just a complete 180. And this is standing at the same spot that I took that photo at in 2015. So you can see the change in the environment there. So that is kind of my presentation to you guys on photographing volcanoes, and what the interest is, what the stories behind the images are, what the struggles are, what the beauty is, what there's so much to it. I get asked quite a bit, do you like storms better or do you like volcanoes better? And the answer is yes. That's a good question, and I have time for one more. They're very similar. They have a lot of the same challenges, a lot of the same beauty, but either way, whether it's a storm or a volcano, it is absolutely incredible on what nature can create. So I know I've been rambling on for a while.
Yeah, no,
if you
great.
guys
It's very interesting. And
Wow.
yeah,
it
anybody
I
have
will
questions?
answer this because
Pretty amazing.
thank you. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And, I think let me log out here real fast. I think I skipped by. If you guys got 3 minutes. Yeah, here it is. I have a little video. So when I'm out there, I'm not only shooting stills, I'm shooting video work as well. So I can show you, I think it's like 3 minutes and 30 seconds to 40 seconds, something like that.
Sure.
One of my videos that I created for the Fagradalsfjall volcano in Iceland. So let me make sure, is this it? Yeah, this is it. So I can show this to you guys, and you'll get an idea now of some of the life that's behind the images. So this is going to be a video that was shot statically on the Nikon Z7 II and Nikon Z6 II, but also some drone footage as well. So let me go ahead and play this for you guys, because I think I flew by it at the beginning here. Can you hear music?
No.
No? Okay.
Nope.
Gotta stop. No. All right. So let's go. There we go. All right. Music now?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Cool. All right. So let's go. There we go. right. So
Wow.
that is that.
It's
So how
amazing.
many drones have you lost flying over, melted the wings of the drones over the volcano?
You know, I actually knock on some wood, have not lost. I've melted one. I melted it. It still flies. It's a little awkward in the air, but it still flies. It's kind of that you can see the rest of the drones hovering like this, and then you see mine that's kind of like this. So the aerodynamics are a little off on it, but it's still live and kicking, and it's still stable. So yeah, luckily none were lost. I can't say none were harmed. So
Wow, that's amazing.
thank
It's a
you.
neat part with those drones to be able to even capture stuff like that.
Yeah, it's nice when they allow them. Like Volcanoes National Park, obviously you can't fly within the national parks. We couldn't fly anything within Leilani, considering it was a official disaster area. They had National Guard helicopters operating 24/7 there, so we couldn't have anything up in the air, unfortunately. Guatemala, I can do. I actually have some plans for the next trip out there to do some drone video, but that's a huge risk because the winds up there are very, very unpredictable. So that might be the first loss, but we will see. So
Yeah.
I saw somebody in the chat, Jim. Did you need or use any protective covers on the camera? No, trying to think. The only thing in regards to protecting the camera that I had to be very aware about was changing lenses. As I mentioned, there's a lot of that tephra in the air. So that was rolling around pretty good. So you had to be very careful to mostly change the lenses inside the vehicle or underneath. Like I would take my rain jacket and cover myself up and then change that way. Because obviously, with tephra being and Pele's hair being so abrasive, you if it can carve into a window, you can mess up your sensor. So
Yeah.
and same thing kind of goes. I used a lot of the rocket blower rather than a like a microfiber cloth to clean off the lens, because if there's any of that on there, and I took the microfiber, it just carved in. So using the rocket blower got a lot of that off of the front elements. So
okay. Did you wear any other protective clothing?
Nothing clothing wise. Always had an SO2 meter with us, always had full I've got it here. I'll show you full just kind of gas mask that had full eye covering, and you change out the filters every single outing because you tend to, I wouldn't say burn through them, but burn through them.
Yeah.
So here, I don't know if this is going to show up, but there's the full face mask there.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So you always had that.
Yeah.
It actually burned off all my hair on my head, unfortunately, never returned. But it's a lot of, actually we did have gloves on at times, and also it seems it's not anything specific for volcanoes, but having thick shoes, because when you're walking on the lava, it's like walking on glass. So it can tear up the bottom of your shoes very easily. If you fall on it, you're going to cut up your hands. So but as far as like any sort of like flame retardant or heat retardant clothing, nah, haven't got to that level yet. So
you just don't wear plastic pants anymore.
yeah. Well, so it's actually a funny story about that. So if you guys are familiar with Marmot, the outdoor apparel company, so those were Marmot pants, and so I tagged them on Instagram and I said, "Hey guys, just FYI, your pants aren't lava proof." And I posted that video, and they responded back with, "Hey, what pants were those and what size?" And I told them, and they're like, "Oh, we don't carry those anymore." I was like, "Oh, it's a bummer. I love those pants." And they're like, "Well, what's your address?" And so I gave my address, and a couple of weeks later, I got a package in the mail from them, and it was like their newest, like top of the line Gore-Tex pants. And they had a note that said, enjoy, ... still not lava proof. I was like, that's cool. Like that's a lot of respect for that company, you know. It was
Yeah.
it was nice of them to do that. So
Good,
but yeah,
good little
I mean
PR thing.
yeah. So but I got a couple volcanoes lined up this year, new ones. So I'm excited to get down to those guys, and then hopefully get out to Fuego again in probably November, because the Fuegos, you have to be your timing has to be pretty good on that, because they have the rainy season there, and
Okay.
you can't make it up there pretty much anywhere from like April through October. There's just, the hike is miserable, the weather's miserable, you're not going to see anything. So hoping to get there in November. So but yeah, no, if anybody ever
Great.
has any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or website. I've got my workshops up, by the way, if anybody's interested in workshops. Everything for this year is sold out. Next year is about half sold out. I've got workshops next year, and yeah, it's crazy. I guess everybody's ready to travel now. But workshops, I got, I think, one spot left for Amsterdam and Belgium next year, or Netherlands and Belgium for the tulips. Got a couple spots left for Death Valley and Oregon, and a couple spots left for the fall colors in the swamps of East Texas, which is always a fun one. So
Wow.
if anybody's interested, that's all on my website there. Or if you just want to go shoot me an email and have a nerdy question, just let me know.
Most of your
Yeah,
stuff is
we'll,
on your website.
Yeah. So in regards to the workshops,
Well, on everything in that, do you have a Facebook in that? Or is most of your stuff 90?
yeah, most of my stuff's going to be either on Instagram or on my website. So my website, I'll put in the chat here, just FYI. So website's MikeMezPhotography.com, and then Instagram is going to be at MikeMezPhoto. I just got back. I haven't posted lately on Instagram because I just got back from a very big project in which I can't talk about, but you guys will know soon enough. It's really cool.
Okay.
But yeah, that's where I post all my work. Like a lot of my Antarctica work's on there, and with storm season kicking off, there's going to be a lot of storm chasing stuff coming up. So yeah, that's where you guys can follow me too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll make sure I get the website out to everybody. It'll be on our one page on the Wacko website. So
Mike, who do you team up with on your workshops?
Most of them are just me. I like to keep my workshops rather small. So for example, like the Netherlands and Belgium one, that's only 4 participants. And then I think like Patagonia, I'll team up with my buddy from Iceland. His name is but yeah, so I like that workshop's 10. So some of the larger ones are 10 participants, but I usually like to keep them between 4 and 6. It's just I feel like it's a better learning environment, and it's just it's easier to kind of be flexible with locations that way, rather than have too many chefs in the kitchen per se. So yeah, so that's I will be teaming up with Nick Page. I don't know if you guys probably know Nick. He's a good buddy of mine. We're working on announcing a monsoon lightning workshop for 2024 together. But yeah, it's usually a smaller group. So usually just yours truly running it. So
Pretty cool. I'm wanting to go to Australia. It doesn't seem like there's much going on there as far as photo workshops. Do you know of any?
Yeah. Sorry.
Why don't you do one?
So I have a rule. I will not teach in a place that I haven't spent at least 40 hours shooting time in, because I want to be comfortable with the location. I want to know it. I want to know the light. I want to know the locations. I want to know the what ifs. I want to know everything that goes into making it a good experience. So I just haven't been able to get down to Australia yet. That is one of the ones that is on the hopefully 5-year plan of getting down there. But the problem with Australia, it's kind of like Texas. It's so freaking big. It's just like it's got some beautiful spots, but they're so far out from each other. So yeah, that's hopefully on the list. But it just hasn't happened yet. So
Let me know if you want to do any scouting. I was talking to the two guys that do the national parks at night and
oh
talking
yeah.
to them about going out scouting with them when they go out, and they just were no. They didn't want people
Oh,
going with them.
was that Gabriel?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah.
And his buddy, I forgot the other guy's name. They were in Minorca.
I can't remember his, but I've known Gabriel for a while. Yeah, but they are very, hey, we're here to scout, and I understand it.
Yeah.
So it's just for me, it's just a matter of getting the time and the money to get down there, because it's it's a haul. So, but yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to just shoot me an email or whatnot. And I appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak with you guys again.
So you're
Well,
in
I
Arizona,
thank you,
right?
Mike, for coming. It's great that you could do this for us. And I know have a lot of people interested. And I know a couple people want to watch the video so they can see it who couldn't get here today. So
Cool. Well, yeah, no, if you guys have any questions, feel free to holler. And like I said, it's always fun to come and get to nerd out with you guys. So I appreciate it.
It was a fantastic job.
Beautiful
thank you.
pictures.
Thank you guys. Hopefully more to come. So
yeah, great.
Stay safe.
Well,
all right, guys.
Thanks again,
so much.
Mike. We'll be
Thank you.
talking to you for something in the future.
Sounds good. All righty, guys.
Okay.
Take care.
You take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you. Well, everybody, I think we'll wrap it up for today. Another interesting forum with lots of interesting photos and good discussions all
You had them
around.
last year for the storms, right? Was that about a year ago?
Yeah, it was April last year that we had him on the storm photography.
And that was pretty amazing too.
Yeah. He was the first guest speaker we really had on here for Digital Forum. So
He did an amazing job. I mean, the last time I thought he was good, but this one was even over the top. It was really high quality image, and the places you can get, sometimes you got to get a helicopter or even a drone. But then I worry about, like some people are brought up about, protecting your equipment. It's like, isn't that going to melt your camera or drone away?
Yeah, that's where
Sometimes I think about
that's where
that,
protective lenses are worth it.
Sometimes I think about those volcanologists that have died observing and reporting, like the one in Mount St. Helens. He died while broadcasting, and he died in a pyroclasmic blast from Mount St. Helens. And I mean, how do you protect yourself against it? He was miles away, and he was killed.
Yeah,
it's awful scary stuff.
No, but it's fascinating. It sort of draws me, just like tornadoes and bad storms draw me outside. So it's one of those things that you go, well, you take your chances and hope and try to think everything out well. But
well, thanks for lighting that up, Jeff. I think the snow is coming down again here, so I think it's time to get outside and do some photography.
I got to go out and snow shovel or snow blow and then do some experimenting with my camera. So thank everyone, for your advice and input, and I got to do some more experimenting. So thank you.
Good luck.
And next month we have Drumma's gonna be talking about photo pills. So looking forward to that. That's April. May we have Jeff Engel coming and talking to us about African safaris and equipment you need to go do that if you were going to go, and just showing off a whole ton of pretty pictures. He's gone there for a number of years. And June we have, I just I had the name Lisk. Sorry about that. Keith Lisk is going to talk about making photo books. He had a great book from the Smoky Mountains. So haven't gotten anything for July yet. We'll be working on that. But and there's a lot of other interesting things coming. I had in case we needed to, and hopefully we'll be able to do a demo. Adobe has this new Firefly where you can create your own artwork just by typing in words and descriptions. Their beta is out now, and I'm trying to get in on the beta so that we can talk about it in one of our meetings. So,
Sweet.
so we'll have a lot of interesting things coming up this summer as stuff keeps changing. So, with
So
that,
if anyone has any suggestions for what they want to learn in PhotoPills next month, I'm lining up just a basic overview. And then I'm hoping to show how to plan a sunset or sunrise. And if there's time at the end, I want to show how to set up a shot for the Milky Way, which is one of the more interesting things that is a little more difficult. A lot of people don't know how to do, but not a lot I can do in an hour.
no, that program is so complicated, but I think getting just the basics out to everybody, I always need a refresher course on it. Every time I want to use it, I have to spend an hour or two trying to figure it out again before I can use it. And so it's always nice right before we get into the main part of the photo season to have an idea how that works. So yeah, if anybody has suggestions, you can send them to me or to Drema, and send them to me and I'll make sure she gets them. So great. Well, with that, I'll say thank you for everybody coming today. We had a pretty good number. I think we're up to around 47 was the number I saw. So that was a pretty good turnout for a snowy Saturday. I have to now spend 3 or 4 hours clearing snow. So I hope everybody doesn't have too much trouble clearing their snow, but that's what I'll be doing. Once it slows down, I got the feeling my watch still says it's snowing out pretty good. So
It is here in Milwaukee.
I'm not sure I understand.
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
my Siri doesn't understand. So, but so thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you next month.
All right.
Thanks, Jeff.
Take care. Great show.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye-bye, everybody.